Today I'm bringing a very special video to you because this video has taken me an incredibly long time to make, which is why I haven't done a lot of content on this guitar player in the past. That is Jason Becker. Before I jump into today's video, I just want to mention my free monthly newsletter. If you hit the link in the description below, it will forward you to my website with a sign-up form, and you will be forwarded my free monthly newsletter as well as all of my tabs for every single video on my YouTube channel. And of course, with that, you'll have access to my email address. Please feel free to email me with any guitar or gear-related questions anytime. So with that being said, let's just jump right into today's video. Now, Jason Becker, for those of you that don't know, really only had a chance to put out one album that he actually physically played the entire album on. He also used to be a member of David Lee Roth's band, replacing Steve Vai after he left, and unfortunately would later, towards the 90s, end up suffering from ALS, which is Lou Gehrig's disease, causing your entire body to essentially become paralyzed, if I'm not mistaken on the definition of that. Unfortunately, Jason Becker now is really only able to blink to speak to others, but is still able to create wonderful music using a computer program that was developed for him that kind of connects to his brain, from my understanding, and how he can still write the material, and then he still actually brings on session musicians to play all the parts. So all the music that you still hear from Jason Becker is music that he would have been playing himself if he was still able to play guitar. Really sad, circumstances that he went through, still going through, to this day. But I encourage you to donate to wherever is possible to help him. I know his family has stuff up through the Instagram page and his website and stuff, so I'll put links to that if you feel compelled, to go over there. I'm not going to put a direct donation link because I'm not affiliated, so I don't want to put the wrong one, and then people are sending money to places that they don't know where it's going. So I'll put links to his pages, so if that compels you, you can go ahead and find that. Just want to put that out there because it's unfortunate, the circumstances. But my belief on this guitar player, Jason Becker, I honestly believe he would have ended up being the greatest guitar player to ever walk the face of the earth if he was able to still physically play guitar. You probably could critically acclaim that right now with the music that he has put out throughout his career, but I think he kind of got that slot stolen from him in a sense because of his illness, which is unfortunate. So I'll explain why I believe this, because there's a lot of great guitar players out there. Obviously, as you all know, if you watch the channel, I love Eddie and I love Yngwie very much. Jason Becker, to me, really took what both of those guys were doing and times it by 10,000, pretty much. Now, I'll say this with the Eddie stuff. I believe once you get to a certain level in your playing, a lot of his chops become easier to play. I'm never going to say it's easy because it's not, but you can hit a certain level and be able to play Eddie's stuff. And Yngwie's stuff is definitely a bit more out of this world, but if you understand the picking techniques that he uses, his material becomes significantly easier to play. Still not easy, but much easier. Jason Becker, there's still stuff that's hard for me, which is why it's taken me so long to make a video actually laying out his techniques. His stylistic choices, even from back in 1987 with Altitudes, are so difficult to play consistently at speed on some of the stuff that you just wonder how. I feel like I've figured out how much better these days, but to play it perfect more than once is a very difficult task, and it entails pretty much the maximum amount of relaxation possible for you to have in both hands and your entire body to be able to play all the way through a bunch of his licks without being able to kind of crash out on it. His music is really a matter of endurance, more than even just technical ability. To be able to play a piece like this for 5 minutes straight without stopping is incredibly difficult. Yngwie's stuff, I do feel, is a little easier because he uses the same picking pattern on nearly everything, and Jason Becker uses pretty much every single type of picking you could do other than hybrid picking. I think is really the only thing I haven't seen him do that much. But sweep picking, economy picking, alternate picking, legato stuff, it's very, very clean. So I'm going to get into a couple licks that I think you should work towards in order to play his material. And I might do this actually for a lot of these iconic guitar players, because I do feel like there are certain licks that are really important to learn in order to kind of actually master their stylistic choice of playing. Now, the one thing that I tell everybody on the channel, my students in general, is that if there's a specific guitar player, and we're talking, like virtuosic player, that you want to learn how to play like, I strongly recommend watching their right hand and just watching like a ton of videos. Copying how it looks, the placement on the guitar, the wrist movement, the arm movement, all of that is going to be massively beneficial to when you try to play like this. And I strongly recommend practicing in a mirror, okay? So I'll say this, for all the Yngwie stuff, I try to practice in a mirror. I mean, now, I've been doing it so long, I pretty much can do it without having to do that. But same with the Eddie stuff. His a little different because he holds the pick, in between these fingers and not these ones. But Jason Becker's the same thing. You want to sit in a mirror, copy the right hand, and you'll really be able to see if you're doing it right. Then the next step I would do is go watch other people play his material and see if they're also doing that, and can you copy that. Now, there's a lot of people that have recorded altitudes on YouTube, the full song. It is one of the hardest guitar pieces of material I've ever ventured to learn, like I said, which is why it took me so long to even make a video where I felt comfortable enough to comment on the material and actually show you how to play it. So let's just break this down with the main licks I think you should work towards. I'm going to break it down in the sense of economy picking licks as well as the sweep picking licks for the most part. The bends and stuff are really a matter of your ear training. His bends are like insanely precise. Obviously a great ear, masterful player. So let's start with this lick right here. So one of the main Jason Becker licks that I want you to learn is really a lot of his runs that you'll hear in the video where he's doing this kind of thing. All right, so when you're playing this kind of lick, okay, you really want to practice, obviously, the notes of the scale first. You want to economy pick that for sure, without a doubt, okay? Now, when I'm playing this forward and backwards, this is the lick that will lead you into the sweeping stuff. Now, there's a couple other licks and variations like this. He uses a lot of the minor scales to do these runs. So the first one is the easiest one, which is why I'm showing you this one first. Because this one, you're going to play it forward, play it backwards, and then play it forward again. Okay, so when you speed it up, and then you run up the whole scale. That's the easiest one to economy pick forward and backwards, okay? Now, when you're playing this, in terms of the picking stuff, okay, I strongly recommend really trying to relax as much as possible. Do not try to be super forceful with the strings here. You're gonna have a hard time getting through that run, okay? In order to speed it up, you gotta hold this with a dead fish hand and almost let the pick just fall right out of your hand when you're doing this, okay? And when I'm doing it this way, I'm going down, up, down, down, up, down, up. This is almost straight alternate picking, but it's inside picking, meaning that when I scoop the upstrokes, I'm not scooping out of the strings to escape. I'm staying inside the strings to switch the angle, okay? Just like that. Now watch the right hand. I'd recommend before you even try this lick, just playing the scale economy picking forward and backwards up to the G string. And then doing it faster. Okay, basically, if you're not used to these kinds of licks, the main idea behind them is to trick your brain into not getting confused that you're only picking, 3 notes here, and then 2 notes here, and then back to 3. The right hand's playing something different than, the left hand's playing something different than the right hand. So you have to get into a mode where you've done it so many times that it's not going to confuse you to play through an uneven amount of notes and then an even amount of notes, so you can keep the picking pattern exactly the same. Okay, now let's build upon that. Here is the next run that's pretty insane. Now this is right after all the sweep picks that you hear. That's kind of the main theme of the song. This is arguably much harder, actually, in my opinion, than the sweep pick part. And it's kind of building on the run up here. Now when Jason, and let me speak on this too, when Jason does the run up before the sweep picks, he did record that as a separate guitar track because it kind of falls into a part that's slightly out of time with what would be natural to play. So he did it more as an orchestration of guitars rather than, a single guitar. But the way I'm showing it to you is if you wanted to do it as a single guitar. Both ways, can be right in this instance. They're basically the same idea. Now let's move on to the lick that's going to be built upon here after the sweep picks. This is the post-sweep runs here on the next part of this lick. This is a very common economy picking run that a lot of shred guys like to use. But this is also one of those licks that if you don't play it very accurate, it will sound not good. So this is one you want to really master. Let me slow this lick down for you so you can see it. One more time. This is one of those economy picking runs that's really a feel while you're playing it, okay? I would strongly recommend taking this one 2 strings at a time before you even add on to it, because the complication of the notes once you get to the top of it is a lot of thinking if you're not used to playing this kind of pattern in the first place. So I would really get used to doing this. Okay, just that many notes. That's like 6 notes stacked. So the picking pattern I'm doing is down, up, down, sweep pick here, okay? Down, up, down, down, up, down on the next string, okay? And just get quick with that until you can speed that up. Okay? So you can kind of play that in your sleep, because that's basically the entire rest of the lick, except you're going up 5 strings total. And then you're going to have a few times where, obviously, again, it's the same idea as the B minor one over here, where you're going to have 3 notes, and then 2 notes, and 3, and it's going to be all over the place. So you really want to master one of them and then start piecing it together with the picking pattern. Now, in terms of the picking, this is the most important part to getting this fast. There's 2 ways you can play this, okay? The Yngwie way, truthfully, which is where he probably got this from the first time, it would be to go down, down, up, down, okay? And then when you do the downstroke, this is an escape, and then you grab this on an upstroke, up, down, up, sweep pick right there. Down, up, down. Okay? That would be the probably original way to play it, would be just like that. So it would go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. You're inside picking, you're keeping all the sweep picks. Here's the way I play it. This is the most comfortable way for me, which is just straight economy picking. Here's how I would do it. Down, up, down, down. So 2 downs, and then up, down, down, up, down, okay? So you're gonna have 2 downstrokes in a row. The way to keep this real kosher and not let it get out of hand is really just gluing your hand here to the guitar, in a sense, and keeping all the wrist movements very, very close together. Okay, and then try to speed that up. All right, you can do a lot with that lick, okay? And those are really the main staples of what a lot of Jason Becker's alternate and economy picking is going to be doing throughout the tune, okay? Now let's backtrack a little bit. I promise I'm going to get into the sweep picking, but that's going to be the very last part of this video. So let's get into a part right before that as well, which would be kind of this Japanese scale that he's playing through that probably was very influenced by Marty Friedman at the time, because they were doing cacophony together. So we have this part. All right, so basically when you're playing through this scale, keep in mind that a lot of the Japanese music is really just fourths. So in Western music, we use a lot of thirds, obviously, for harmony and stuff like that. Perfect example would be, anything of the essence like this. All right, so Japanese music uses a lot of fourths for harmony instead of thirds, kind of as a replacement. There's also a lot of minor seconds in there. So in my explanation of this part of the key, or this part of the song rather, to you, you want to be very diligent to get your bends totally in tune. So when you're doing these bends, these are bends that a lot of guitar players are not used to playing, because they are a lot of quarter and half step bends. Okay, like that. That's all half steps, just right there, okay? Your ear is not really used to hearing that if you don't, do this a lot, or if your ears just aren't up to par in that way. But know that these bends are like super precise. So a lot of the time when people hear this music, they're like, man, that doesn't sound good. But it's not that it doesn't sound good, you're just not used to hearing that kind of cadence between notes. So you're really just probably not used to hearing those bends if you don't, if your ear training isn't up to level like that. So that's something you definitely want to work on, with the bends and just hearing notes in general. So that way when you go to play this part of the song, you can get those bends and make them super precise and super in tune. A lot of Western music, you're probably just used to hearing thirds and fifths as the harmony a lot of the time, which there's nothing wrong with that. But he's, not taking from Western cadences in this specific part of the song. It's a lot of Japanese influenced scales. So that's why the bends sound like off to, someone, the layperson's ear basically, because you're just not used to hearing those cadences. So I strongly recommend, studying that as well before you get into this part of the tune, because a lot of these bends are super weird, just being honest with you. So, that part I'm not going to go into the notes as much because that's pretty easy to learn that part. There's a lot of, a couple string skips there. If you're not used to that, I would recommend down, up, down, up. Okay, start those with an upstroke. That's very much also an Yngwie technique, to go up, down, up, down, up, down, to do a lot of the string skips without it fatiguing your hand. There's another like quarter step bend there. That's not even a half step. Yeah, that's a quarter step. So that's what I'm saying. You want to be able to hear those. Guitar is such a great instrument. You gotta definitely recognize the beauty of it, though. Like, just with that, what other instrument, you know, other than, you know, some stringed instruments you can bend the strings, can you do quarter steps like that on to get into other keys like that? I find that to be very interesting. Okay, now let's get to the meat. Everything you're waiting for. I know, everyone's been waiting for the sweep picking. So, also everybody, in honor of today's video, in the post-production edit, I just wanted to mention that I have recently dropped a new piece of merch called Sweep Picking is Dope. As you all know, I advocate sweep picking for nearly every stylistic choice of playing on my channel, especially when it comes to things like Jason Becker, Yngwie Malmsteen, and a lot of other guitarists of the essence. So if you want to show your support for the channel, and also show all your friends that you also think sweep picking is dope, make sure to click the link in the description below and check out some of this merch. Let's just get right into the sweep picking. So obviously you learned all the fast riffs, you know, what you should work on in order to build up to this point. I'm not going to show you the notes because there's plenty of videos on YouTube, you know, teaching altitudes note for note. But this is more of a deep dive into the technique to get you into playing altitudes, because once you got the technique, the notes are not going to be a problem for you as much. It's really going to just be like, how do you actually achieve the notes, right? All right, so let's talk about the first couple of sweep picks here. I would definitely recommend practicing just 3-note per string minor sweeps to a metronome before you do anything, frankly. If you don't already know how to sweep pick, you probably shouldn't even be watching this video, truthfully, but I'll give you a couple tips on how to sweep pick this fast to get the endurance for it, because that is definitely a next step in terms of sweep picking if you're not already accustomed to doing sweeps this fast and accurately as well at the same time. So when I'm doing this, watch the right hand. Hold the pick as if you're going to drop it again. That's a common theme throughout this entire piece and this style of playing. You want to hold the pick as if you're going to drop that pick. Don't drop it though, obviously. Just tight enough you don't drop it. So when I'm doing this, I'm going to start with a downstroke. When I enable that downstroke, this is a hammer-on pull-off right here. Okay? When I enable that downstroke, what I'm doing is I'm shoving my hand down this way so I can immediately rake the upstrokes right in a row without having to do anything. Now this specific speed for sweep picking is not going to be so easy just to go this motion, okay? You got to get a little bit of circular contour here in the wrist. You know, normally I wouldn't say that, but this is so quick and so accurate that you have to kind of almost compensate for the fact that you're not going to just be able to glide the pick through the strings how you normally would with a slower sweep pick sound. So when I'm doing this, I'm coming down with the downstroke here, hammer on pull off, and then I'm raking. And what I'm doing is I'm slightly pivoting my wrist forward again so I don't flub it this way. So I'm basically going from the downward slant here to the upward slant and then back to down, up, down, up, down, up. And that's a common theme throughout the sweep picking thing, is that you really want to switch your pick slant constantly as you're doing it. Which is where you kind of see this like wavy motion of my hand. That's what that is. All right, so now the next thing before I get into the other crazy part of this, is that you're going to find most of the sweep picks in general for this piece are very common shapes, okay? So this minor shape here is just part of this one. Very common shape. Now this is a major shape here. That's the full shape. Let me tune my guitar. Here we go. That's the full major shape. Those two are like the most common sweep pick shapes ever. If you can learn those, you basically have like 80% of the sweeps that you're going to see in the whole pattern. So don't let the million notes trip you up when you're looking at this piece. You really just want to look at it as, what shapes am I using? Most of this fast stuff is shapes, and it's very well thought out shapes because, you know, the guitar, the instrument itself is designed to be an instrument of shapes. So once you know these shapes, they're transposable across, the entire neck, which is how you can get these great harmonies very easily without having to think so much. It's more of a doing process at that point. So you have the minor sweep here. You're going to find that one again later on. Then you got the major sweep here, other most common sweep. This is another common minor sweep shape that he immediately goes into after that. Okay, he just and now keep in mind he's breaking these up into three strings for the most part. Occasionally hitting the full pattern here. Now also when you're doing these sweeps, for anything that's barred like that, you want to use the roll technique, where you basically, play soft enough that you can roll off the string when you're done playing it, so you don't get any ring like that, right? Because that doesn't sound very good if you ring. See, I can't even do it because I've been sweeping so long the right way. No, I can't show you how to do it the wrong way. No, I'm just kidding. But here's how you would do it the wrong way. Okay, letting all the strings ringing out. That's not what you want. So you want to roll off that string ever so slightly. I mean, you're barely coming off. You can still touch the string, And then same thing, you roll the other way, which is probably an easier roll to come off of the string when you're descending. Like that. And just keep it super light touch. You don't have to be heavy-handed with any of this stuff. Now, if you ever watch Jason Richardson and All That Remains play any kind of sweep picking stuff, he'll actually go and, I don't even know how he would do it. He goes like this. Like where he actually uses each individual finger on every note. That to me is crazy. I think the roll technique is just fine. That's what Jason Becker actually used also as the roll technique. So there's nothing wrong with just doing the original way. But Jason Richardson is a great guitar player, for sure. So we have that one, we have this one. Just practice those shapes anywhere on the neck. Okay? So now let's get into the really crazy part here. So here you go, there's a repetition of another minor sweep here. So like I said, same one as here. Alright, there's going to be a lot of these, so like I said, once you get the shapes down, you're good to go. Another minor sweep. Alright, so let's really get into like how crazy this one is though. This is like the unplayable sweep pick that I think I've only ever seen like one person on YouTube actually play this exactly how Jason played it on the recording. So basically there's a part in this song where it's like, then this part right here. Okay, that part normally you do not have to jump down here because you're coming from here. This is how you're actually supposed to play it. And it is like, I'm going to be honest, I've really tried to get this how it's supposed to be played. I don't know if it's possible for me to do it. Like, I don't ever want to say something isn't possible on this instrument because I believe that everything is. Like, if someone's already done something, you can learn how to do it too. But this is like one of the few licks in my whole life that I'm like, I really don't know if I can get that up to speed as accurate as he's playing it. here's what it's supposed to look like. I'll play it slowly. It's just so accurate. The sliding with the pinky is really the hardest part of it. So if you got pinkies of steel, you might be able to get it at speed. But you're going between this minor sweep and then this one, the original one that I was showing you. And then you would come up here. And then you have all these major sweeps that are, again, using the rolling technique. Once you understand the rolling technique, you can apply it to any type of sweep pick that you need. To me, that sweep that I just showed you, though, is the hardest sweep in the entire piece, no question. One of the hardest sweeps like I've ever attempted, frankly. Doesn't matter the piece. It's hard to play, okay? So with all that being said, okay, everything I just showed you today in this video is most of Jason Becker's main, I don't want to say tricks, but main techniques that he was using, especially on that first solo album, okay? The stuff he wrote later on that other people played is almost even more extravagant than some of the stuff he did on the first album. Like, I'd almost argue that I like some of his music after he couldn't play guitar more than his original stuff. But, you know, that's just him maturing as a musician. So, you know, who knows what he would have played if he was still actually, you know, physically playing the instrument. But nonetheless, it is very virtuosic, very difficult music to play. And I hope that this kind of gave you a better outline of some of the stuff he's doing so you can compartmentalize it better so it doesn't just feel like a ton of notes and a ton of craziness going on at one time. Most of it really is pretty, you know, systematic in a way that it's like, okay, here's another thing that he normally does that he's doing here. Here's, you know, that lick's getting recycled here, but in a different key or something like that. A lot of these players have stuff like that. As you know, Eddie Van Halen's going to have the tapping. Yngwie's got quite a few licks that he recycles in different keys very often. Eric Johnson, descending, pentatonics that he does is using a lot of his material. Marty Friedman has a lot of, arpeggio stuff that he recycles a lot. So Jason Becker is really no different when it comes to that. It's more of just how they musically applied it. And sometimes those, musical applications tend to be more difficult than others. In this case, he is just a monster of a musician. And all the stuff he played is just stuff that takes time and patience to work towards. And we can only admire such, a great piece of art at the end of the day. So, props to Jason Becker for creating just some absolutely insane music. He's pretty, honestly, he's a musical genius. What can I say? I wouldn't say that about many people, but he's an actual genius. So, one of my favorite guitar players of all time, probably top 3 for sure. Yeah. So if you want me to actually learn all of Altitudes, well, for one, if you actually made it to the end of this video, thanks so much. If you want me to actually, do a performance of the entire piece, leave a comment on that and like the video, and I will think about doing that. It's like making it through 1.5 minutes of the piece is very, very difficult in itself. To play through the whole thing perfectly is incredible. I've seen other people on YouTube do it, so obviously it's not impossible, but it just takes time. So leave a comment, leave a like if you want to see me do that. Make sure to subscribe to the monthly newsletter, get all my tabs, etc. And appreciate all you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.